Imagine trying to build a new nation entirely from scratch. You've got this massive population of former slaves, absolutely no established infrastructure, and you're standing on the edge of a territory where every surrounding nation operates on completely different, economic, legal, and spiritual systems.
Right. It's a total clash of worlds.
Exactly. And your survival depends entirely on two things. First, how you organize your economy to support a public service class. And second, how you filter out fake news from the spiritual realm. So welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Our mission today is to dissect an ancient blueprint that tackled this exact crisis, which is Deuteronomy chapter 18. But before we get into the mechanics of this massive societal shift, I just want to take a moment to offer a divine blessing over you, our listener. As you navigate the countless competing voices, anxieties, and, choices in your own life this week, may you find profound clarity, peace, and a steady sense of purpose.
That is honestly an incredibly fitting thought to hold on to, because clarity in a world of competing voices is precisely the crisis these ancient people were facing.
Yeah, big time.
We're analyzing a text that served as a strict defining constitution for a society in transition. And to really understand the mechanics of what is happening here, we're pulling insights from two distinct and, really rich sources today.
Right, the study Bibles.
Exactly. The Holman Study Bible, which does an incredible job of anchoring the text in the gritty historical and archaeological realities of the ancient Near East, and the NWA, or Nova Almeida Actualizada Study Bible, which provides some profound theological framing and linguistic nuance.
So let's jump straight into the infrastructure of this society, starting with the economics in the first 8 verses. Because before you can even talk about spiritual guidance, people need to eat.
They absolutely do.
The text outlines the unique economic status of the Levites and the priests. And according to both study Bibles, the first major constitutional rule is this massive glaring exclusion. The entire tribe of Levi is legally barred from receiving any land inheritance in Israel.
Right, zero land.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
In an agrarian society, land isn't just a place to live. It is your equity, your retirement fund, your entire means of survival. Banning an entire 1/12 of the population from owning land seems like, a recipe for instant systemic poverty.
It definitely looks that way to modernize.
Yeah.
If you remove the primary means of generating wealth, you essentially create a dependent class.
Right.
But the Holman notes dive deep into the mechanism designed to offset this. The text declares poetically that the Lord is their inheritance, but pragmatically the system sustained them through the sacrificial offerings.
Okay, let's unpack this. How did that actually work?
Well, when a citizen brought oxen or sheep for a sacrifice, the priests were legally entitled to specific prime cuts. We're talking the shoulder, the cheeks, and the stomach.
See, I was wondering about those specific parts. Like the shoulder, historically, is a highly prized cut of meat. It shows a level of societal value being placed on these individuals.
Right, they weren't getting the scrap.
Exactly. And it wasn't just the barbecue, right? It was the entire agricultural yield. They received the first fruits. So the premium first yields of grain, the new wine, the fresh olive oil, and even the first sheep's wool of the season.
And the timing of those first fruits is vital here. You are giving away the very first yield before you even know if the rest of the harvest will survive the season.
Oh, wow. So it bakes a radical level of trust into the economy.
It really does. But there is a specific nuance in the NWA study notes that completely shifts our understanding of their alleged poverty. The text includes a provision for a Levite who decides to leave his rural hometown and travel to the central sanctuary to minister.
Wait, let me stop you there because the logistics of that are fascinating. A guy just packs up and moves to the capital.
He does, and the law guarantees that he ministers with equal standing alongside the priests who are already established there. He receives an equal portion of the food.
Good.
But the crucial detail is that he gets this communal support in addition to whatever private wealth he generated from selling his family patrimony.
Oh, wow. That completely changes the picture. When I first read this, I just assumed they were forced into like a monastic vow of absolute destitution.
Right, but they weren't.
Yeah, because family patrimony implies they still had personal ancestral property. Like maybe houses or goods passed down through their specific family lines, even if they didn't have massive tribal grazing lands.
Exactly.
It feels a bit like someone taking a high-level public service role today. You forfeit the right to build a massive monopolistic corporate empire, but the state, or in this case the community's offerings, guarantees your salary, so you can focus entirely on your public duty.
That is the core mechanism right there. And the Holman notes are explicit about the why behind the structure. God's provision was designed specifically so the Levites would not be overburdened with the material anxieties of land management.
That makes total sense.
Right. If you are a priest agonizing over whether a drought is going to destroy your personal wheat field, your focus is entirely consumed by survival. You cannot tend to the spiritual or judicial needs of the community.
Yeah, you'd be too distracted.
Exactly. Their office was holy, meaning set apart, to the point that they consumed sacred sacrifices regular citizens couldn't even touch. So the economic system was not a punishment. It was a mechanism of freedom.
So we have this beautifully engineered system where the Levites are managing the day-to-day spiritual economy. They're handling the present reality. But human nature dictates that if the present is stable, we immediately start panicking about the future.
Oh, always.
Right. If a drought does hit or a foreign army mobilizes on the border, people want supernatural guarantees. And this transitions us directly into a much darker part of the chapter, starting in verse 9, where the text addresses the temptation to seek hidden knowledge.
The anxiety of the unknown always drives people toward the illusion of control. And in the ancient Near East, that control was marketed and sold through magic and divination.
And I have to push back on my own historical assumptions here.
Yeah.
For a long time, I read the list of forbidden practices in this text.
Mm.
Child sacrifice in the fire, divination, prognosticating, reading omens, witchcraft, casting spells, and necromancy.
A heavy list.
It really is. And I just viewed it as a random, primitive list of spooky things to avoid, like a Halloween checklist of bad behavior. But digging into the Holman notes on the mechanics of ancient magic, it completely flipped my perspective.
How so?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. It wasn't about avoiding spooky things. It was about confronting an entire industry of manipulation.
That is spot on. The business of divination was incredibly sophisticated and highly formalized in Canaanite and Babylonian cultures.
It really was. The study notes explain the practice of extispacy, which is the reading of animal entrails. A king or a wealthy merchant wouldn't just slaughter a sheep for fun. They hired a highly paid professional diviner.
A specialist.
Yeah. And the diviner would slice open the animal, pull out the liver, and literally read the specific bumps and discoloration against intricate clay models they kept as reference guides.
Like a medical textbook, but for prophecy?
Exactly. They were looking for the secret plans of the gods. They also watched how smoke formations twisted in the wind, or they dropped oil into a bowl of water and read the spreading shapes.
And we have to ask why they did this. As the Holman notes clarify, magic in the ancient world was fundamentally transactional and mechanical. You believed the gods were unpredictable and, honestly, largely indifferent to human suffering.
Right, they didn't really care about you.
No. So you use a ritual to force their hand. If the diviner read the liver and said, the gods are planning a famine, you didn't just accept it. You paid for a counter-ritual to bind the gods, to coerce them into changing the future.
See, this is the massive theological pivot. It is an entire worldview built on manipulation. You're basically trying to put a steering wheel on the universe.
That's a great way to put it.
And the notes point out that God is driving the Canaanite nations out of the land, specifically as a judgment against these practices. It isn't arbitrary divine real estate theft. It is a targeted strike against a system that relies on manipulating nature and coercing the spiritual realm. God is effectively saying, you do not manipulate me. You wait for me to speak.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the NAA study notes highlight a specific word in verse 13 to really drive this home. The Israelites are commanded to be blameless or perfect before the Lord. In the original Hebrew, the word is tamim.
Tamim.
Right. And it doesn't mean you never make a moral mistake. In this context, it implies total, undivided loyalty. It means refusing to hedge your bets.
I see.
Yeah, you cannot trust the God of Israel on the Sabbath and then sneak off to the local diviner on Tuesday because you're worried about your crops. The God of Israel operates entirely on revelation, not manipulation.
But consider the agonizing tension this creates for the average ancient listener. Think about the psychological weight. You are surrounded by neighboring empires that have a spell, a ritual, or an entrail reading for every single human anxiety.
Right, a quick fix for everything.
Yeah. But your constitution strictly forbids you from consulting any of them. You can't read the omens, you can't hire a witch, you can't consult your dead ancestors when you desperately need advice. You have essentially created a complete vacuum of information. How on earth do you get answers?
A vacuum that large will inevitably be filled by something. You cannot permanently outlaw all unauthorized channels of divine communication without establishing a formalized, authorized channel.
Right, the society would just collapse from the anxiety.
The societal anxiety would simply tear the community apart.
Which brings us to the ultimate solution in the final section of the chapter of the prophet. Starting in verse 15, God promises to raise up a prophet like Moses from among their own brothers. But the historical backdrop of this promise is what really stands out in the study material. This prophetic office wasn't some top-down mandate initially forced on the people. The people actually begged for it.
Yeah, the origin story takes us back to Horeb, or Mount Sinai.
The terror of Sinai.
Exactly. The notes remind us that when the Israelites first heard the direct, unmediated voice of God booming from the fire and smoke on the mountain, they were completely overwhelmed.
Terrified, really.
They thought the sheer proximity to the divine was going to kill them. So they went to Moses and demanded a buffer. They said, "We cannot handle this direct access. We need a middleman." And surprisingly, God agrees. He says, they are right in what they have spoken.
It is a fascinating moment of divine accommodation. The creator of the universe looks at human fragility and says, I will adapt my communication to your capacity.
Right. And the NDBA notes draw out the long-term messianic implication of this moment. By promising a prophet like Moses, the text establishes a continuous living institution. Israel would never be without a voice.
A constant guide.
Exactly. But this lineage ultimately points forward through history to a singular ultimate prophet, a figure the New Testament writers clearly identify as Jesus, the final mediator.
So what does this all mean? Because pragmatically, on a random Tuesday in ancient Israel, this creates a massive vulnerability. We are talking about the ultimate ancient verification problem.
Oh, absolutely.
Today, we scroll through our feeds and struggle to figure out if a news article is real, if an account has a legitimate verification badge, or if it's an AI bot. For the Israelites, the stakes of verification weren't just about being misinformed. They were literal life and death. If anyone can stand up and claim to be this promised mediator, how do you know if they are delivering true divine revelation, or if they are just a presumptuous charlatan trying to gain political power?
The text provides a test that is brutally, almost uncomfortably pragmatic. Verse 22 states that if a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord and the thing does not happen or come true, that is the ultimate proof of a false prophet. They have spoken presumptuously.
It is essentially a spiritual escrow account. Think about it. You don't release your full trust or your societal compliance until the goods are actually delivered and verified by historical reality.
That's a great analogy.
And the penalty for bouncing that spiritual check is severe. The text mandates the death penalty for a prophet who speaks falsely or in the name of other gods. If the prophecy fails, their verified status is revoked permanently, along with their life.
And the Holman notes offer a perfect historical illustration of this test in action, found a bit later in the book of Jeremiah. You have a classic showdown between two competing voices claiming divine authority.
Okay, set the scene for us.
So Jeremiah, the true prophet, is walking around Jerusalem wearing a literal wooden yoke on his neck, predicting that the Babylonian Empire is going to conquer them and the exile will be long and devastating.
Which is a deeply unpopular message.
Very unpopular.
And then enter Hananiah, the false prophet.
Precisely. Hananiah steps up, publicly breaks the wooden yoke off Jeremiah's neck, and delivers a highly popular, comforting piece of fake news. He claims God told him the Babylonian threat will be broken within 2 years.
Wow, so it's a direct contradiction. Who does the people believe?
Well, they apply the test of Deuteronomy 18. They put it in escrow. And historical reality makes the final judgment. Hananiah's comforting prophecy fails entirely, and according to the historical record in Jeremiah 28, Hananiah dies that very same year.
That is wild. Beyond the historical drama, though, consider the profound psychological relief this test offered the average citizen. If someone approaches you claiming to speak on behalf of the Almighty, that is an inherently terrifying dynamic. It carries a heavy threat of spiritual extortion.
Definitely.
But the chapter concludes with a powerful command regarding the false prophet. Do not fear him.
That reframing is incredible. It strips the manipulator of all their leverage. The text is telling the community that a false prophet has absolutely no metaphysical power to curse you or harm you. Their words are just empty air.
Right.
You only have to anchor your trust in the verifiable, historically proven word of God. It completely decentralizes the fear of spiritual abusers.
It grounds faith in observable reality rather than superstitious panic.
Exactly.
So bringing all these threads together for you, the listener, Deuteronomy 18 is far more than a dusty catalog of ancient religious rules. By looking through the lenses of the Holman and NAA study notes, we see a highly sophisticated blueprint for a new society.
It really is.
It engineers an economy where those serving the public trust the Levites are fully provisioned by the community without hoarding the real estate. It aggressively dismantles the manipulative, coercive, and transactional industries of ancient magic, replacing an economy of fear with an economy of revelation. And it establishes the prophet as a strictly verifiable channel of divine communication, protecting the minds and the lives of the people from spiritual fraud.
As we wrap up this analysis, there is a lingering tension in this text that I want to leave our listener to mull over. The entire verification system rests on waiting.
Waiting, yeah.
Right. The test of a prophet is whether their words come true in history. But when Jeremiah and Hananiah were standing in the temple courts arguing, the people watching didn't know the outcome yet. They were trapped in the middle of the story.
They just had to endure the agony of suspense.
The waiting period, yes. If the ultimate proof of authenticity is time, how did the average Israelite navigate the anxiety of the not yet? And more importantly, how do we today handle the waiting period between hearing a promise or seeking direction and actually seeing the fulfillment unfold in our own lives?
That is a brilliant, provocative thought to carry with us. How do we endure the wait while the truth is still in escrow? Thank you for exploring the mechanics of this fascinating text with us.
It was a pleasure.
And to you, our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. As we close out our time together, I want to say goodbye by declaring that God blesses all of you, our listeners. May you walk in peace, equipped with wisdom for the week ahead until we meet again. Take care.